Nhưng mà không sao đâu, hôm qua tại hôm qua thấy là lớp mình nếu mà không quay thì các bạn thoải mái hơn đúng không?
Em bình thường, em không ngại lên hình nữa.
Ok. Vậy phần nào đó em thì mình đeo mic nha, còn không thì thôi đúng không? Tại nếu mà các bạn cảm thấy là sợ bị quay lại thì mình không quay cũng được. Tại hôm qua mình thấy là mình discuss không có máy này là cũng ok đúng không? Các bạn có nói lại mà các bạn cũng muốn là về nhà sẽ có clip, có cái gì để mà mình theo dõi lại. Yeah, ok.
Em biết có clip nhưng mà không nói là
để cho nó giống nghiêm túc lên. Quay rồi hả?
nó update cái nick này. Còn nó đang làm cái gì biết?
Nó đang quay luôn đúng không? Xin chào mọi người. Mọi người tới trễ nha.
Mọi người tới trễ.
Vậy là các bạn còn lại là present xong rồi là không đi luôn hay sao?
Chắc
xong
trễ.
với mọi người với một bài. Mọi người đến trễ xíu.
Mình vẫn kiểu cho bài 2 đúng không thầy? Mình vẫn làm bài 2 đúng không ạ?
Đúng á. Nhưng mà cái quan trọng là 5 bài đầu tiên là 5 bài nó cái impact của nó thì là lớn hơn nên mình sẽ được làm kỹ, còn cái bài 2 chắc là lúc đó là đã quen rồi á thì là mình sẽ làm nhanh cũng được.
Cứ vậy hoài.
Tưởng chị chùi. Chùi không?
Chị chùi cái con chị thôi.
Mình đã thuyết trình đó.
Chị chùi con chị chùi đủ này. Em bật sẵn cái tay vào.
Hôm qua
Không
hơi
vui, không vui.
khi rảnh mọi nghe khúc độ sống thì
Rồi, xong.
cảm ơn chị. Bây giờ thầy có nhận làm supervisor.
Nhưng mà các bạn làm gì nào vậy?
Sắp tới đó, tụi em còn 2 môn này nữa là hết tháng 3 là xong và bắt đầu. Thế là cuối tháng 2 tụi em sẽ cần liên hệ với diễn viên.
Tại vì hiện giờ là cái kỳ này là thầy supervisor cũng phải 6 bạn rồi, 6 bạn của bachelor thì không biết là có còn thời gian để mà làm chỉ vậy thôi, nhưng mà như cái này của mình là các bạn biết trong 6 tháng đúng không?
Dạ đúng rồi.
5 tháng là từ tháng 4 đến
Đúng rồi, khoảng 5
khoảng
tháng.
tháng 4 đến tháng 9. Tháng 4 đến tháng 9.
Đúng rồi.
Rồi xong rồi trong quá trình đó là sẽ có một buổi là
Dạ đúng rồi.
seminar đúng không?
Dạ,
Defense với lại thầy Hàm thì bây giờ hay là sẽ tùy cái panel của các bạn.
Dạ là
Cơ bản là
thầy Hà với thầy Dũng đỡ là chỉ có một cái lúc đầu với một cái giữa thôi, còn từ đó trở đi là không còn nữa. Defense lúc đầu với giữa chứ không có cuối.
chưa nghe thông báo mới về cái cuối, chỉ có
Không có cái cuối luôn trong quá.
không có luôn hả?
Năm ngoái không có cái cuối, lúc sau mình làm xong giáo viên chấm điểm rồi xong rồi. Không có Defense cuối cùng nữa. Chỉ
Là
có
hai
cái giữa thôi. Lúc đầu cái khúc 1/3.
Nhưng mà vậy là cái mục đích của cái đầu tiên là để cho hai thầy
Cái đó là propose thì đúng rồi, nó mới cái mức độ của cái đó.
ok, xong rồi cái 1/3 là cho hai thầy coi cái prelim result của mình.
Chắc là gặp với thầy.
Xong rồi góp ý để cải thiện, xong rồi nộp bài kiểu vậy á. Em nghe vậy.
Nhưng mà mới 1/3 thì chắc cũng chưa có làm được nhiều đúng không?
Em nghĩ vậy.
Thường ví dụ như lần cuối sẽ đỡ hơn đúng không? Nhưng mà cái này là giống như là tất cả những
Không,
trong khóa
nói
đều
chung là
cùng phải tham gia đúng cái buổi đó thôi, chứ không có được là tùy theo ký ngày nào hay sao.
Ấy là một lần thuyết trình
Xong
tới
nếu mà chưa có gì cũng tầm 50% đúng không chị? Giống như là nói về ý tưởng.
không phải 50% mà là cái đó seminar sẽ là 6 chỉ,
Như là cũng phải chung có thể
6
tắt
chỉ, còn 24 chỉ là cái final cuối cùng mình nộp bài thesis là 24
Cái
chỉ.
sao không muốn là nhiều
các
không?
bạn phải ký trong cái bản giấy cũng gần
Thì
gần
thì
nhau,
chỉ
đúng
mà
không?
bài thesis của em mà phải gấp mấy lần vậy chứ.
nó có cái thời gian như thế đó.
Ok.
Tổng cái thesis của em là 30 chỉ thì có 6 chỉ là cái
Sao
seminar.
là đầu tiên
với lại
4 là
qua
cái
cái này để thầy coi nếu mà được thì thầy sẽ coi cái tình hình như là tại vì nếu mà muốn supervise các bạn thì cũng phải có thời gian làm việc với các bạn nhiều á, chứ không thôi mất công rồi không có thời gian thì mấy bạn cũng bơi cũng mệt. Đấy, nên là như vậy. Nhưng mà các bạn là bị bắt làm hết là về empirical đúng không?
Dạ cũng không mấy.
Em không biết gì trong này.
Ủa
Chỉ là một lần đi.
chứ tưởng là mặc định của chương trình mình là các bạn sẽ phải làm empirical là làm với data đúng không? Chứ đâu không được là
Không được khi
đúng không?
Đúng rồi, cái nào phải có data nào đó.
Ok rồi. Vậy thì
Giống vui rồi chị. Giống vui rồi. Rồi, quay nè. Các bạn đã nấu rồi nó đi xong chưa? Quay kìa.
Chuẩn bị vô vị trí trong hình các bạn.
Đó, vô vị trí chụp hình kìa, thầy chụp hình. Thầy chụp hình với thầy. Nhờ cho ông nhổ như vậy.
Các bạn nào mà không
Em chụp
các bạn nào không thì Zen có thể lấy máy ra chụp hình trong quá trình các bạn.
Người sát sát vô, sát sát vô. Nhỏ kia sát vô, nhỏ kia sát vô.
Em chụp chung nhé.
Mà sẽ có một cái buổi một cái thôi là mình chụp group của
Rồi vô, người sát vô. Mày làm thi xích gì mà mày gần sát thầy vô xem nào. Tình thân với thầy này. Rồi nhìn cái máy này chính nha, máy bên này mới chính nha. 2 3 2 3 rồi.
Còn tiền chọc á, chút nữa các bạn đuổi.
hai con mắt không biết nhìn vô cái nào luôn á. Mỗi con một cái.
Hồi lên một cái mắt bé xẹo luôn.
Tuyền cho anh một lần xin chị vào đây.
Nhìn em tỏ đi kìa.
Wow.
Em bắt đầu.
Dạ.
So, good morning, everyone. Today I will present for you a paper which is about the infrastructure expansion. The name of the paper is Take a Q Train Value Capture of the Public Infrastructure Project. So first we try to give you the insight about the paper, which is the motivation and also the research questions. So the paper that they care about, they will create another infrastructure, which is railway. But the problem is they are very costly to build. And another thing is that the government think the infrastructure will give them the higher tax rate, but mostly the benefit is received by the private group. And about the first observation, so they observed the Second Avenue subway, the Q Line extension, they opened in New York City in 2017. And when they opened it, the neighborhood they gained the access, also the commuting time and the local real estate they changed. So they come up with the research question, the two research questions. The first is how much the value did the subway they create, and another one is that how much the value is captured by the government, specifically the taxes. So about the data set is mainly concluded. The first thing is the mobile phone GPS that they observed before and after the Q train the opening. And second thing is the residential train section, the sale price and the character and the building characteristic over time. Last one is the rental listing. They try to separate the short run and the long run from the long run benefits. And finally, they come up with the outcome is that the community time in the second unit, the lock sale price and lock rent, also the price rent ratio.
Okay, hello everyone. So I just want to summarize a little bit information about the two slides because we have a lot of time. So I think it's quite interesting because we are now having like the first metro already, and we are building the second and third metro. So this paper is examining like whether it is profitable for both the government who finance it or like for the residents. And we will see that. And one highlight here in this paper, I want to you guys to remember is that it is the densities already. So they have a lot of infrastructures already, a lot of metros, a lot of railways. So it's even harder and even more costly to build another one. It is costly by the design and also costly because like we have to remove existing infrastructure to build a new one. So and the specific area here is like the Second Avenue subway. So it is like the area around it. So we have two research questions. The first one is that about the value, whether it is profitable, but in what terms? So in terms of the commuting time, traveling time, and the real estate capitalizations here, it's just the prices of property. And the second one is that what about the government, like the one who finances, whether it can pay back all of the 100% of what they invest in this project. So we are, so just a sneak peek about the result. So like it can create a lot of value, but what the government can return, can get in return may be limited. So for their commuting time, it's very brilliant here because they use like the app like Google to track the time when you travel from A to B. And so that is the first source of data. The second one is about like so how to know about whether the prices of the apartments or buildings have been risen up or decreased. So they use data from residential transactions, so to know like the change in the price of properties in the neighboring areas. And last one is also about rental, but we will not see. I didn't include the table for this, but they also have information about the rental fees. So it also creates value for the one who like rent their apartment, not buy or sell. So key outcomes here, the variables that we will look here, is that whether the commute time will be reduced, the price, whether it's go up or go down, the rent, and also and about the rent. So the model here is just like difference in difference, OLS. We have treatment post, treatment interact with post, some controls. So I just want to clarify a little bit here. It's about the treatment. It's not what we have learned in the course of Dr. Zhang. That is like information treatment. So the treatment here is just like different groups because it's important how we define neighboring areas, how close of the properties that we want to focus on. So maybe like around like within 1 kilometer or within 2 kilometers, so very close or very close to the new subway line. So we have different definitions, so it creates different treatment over here. So post is like before and after the opening of this subway. So the important here is that the coefficient of beta of the interaction is the coefficients of different and different here. So this is the first result, commuting effect. So the table is quite long, so we will just list the two most important ones. So we can see over here, the first one, that's key effect. Post with treatment is -193. So this is in the unit of second. So it's around like more reduced by more than 3 minutes. And for those who use the subway, so it is even larger. This is like post and treatment means like for traveling time for non-subway user. And this is for subway user. It's even much larger, 850 seconds less. Yeah, the treated area commuter saved about like 3.2 minutes relative to control. And among the subway user, I just say it is about like 14.2 minutes. So now we come to the house price effects. So they regress the log of sell price on other variables. So we can see here that this is positive, and I'm sorry to not include the level of significant. I think it's about like 95 or 99%. So it is around like 8% higher prices in the treated area. Yeah, so this is like after post interact with on Second Avenue is that after the subway opening, and it is the prices of properties that lie on that avenue, very close to, right next to the subway line. And this is the value capture. It's like, so we want to see how much this government can get in return. So the total value created is the first line, $5.53 billion. But there is only one channel here through property tax. So it's only 1.69 billion. So this is the present value because I think like they have discounted a cash flow of a few years, maybe 5 or 10 years into this time. So from that we can make the calculations, and I already made it for you. So capture share is 30.6% only. Yeah, and the construction scope is really high, so the net gain to the government is minus. So the project creates like a lot of values, we can see, but like the property taxes only capture 3.6%. I just want to say like, so do you think like what are others, like 70% of the extra value added here? Can I ask like over the answer?
Sure.
Okay,
Just
so
go ahead.
if you're interested in this, because like we say that they had created a lot of money, so we can say that 100%. So only 30.6% go back to the government. So what about the others, around 70%? What do you think? Who will have that? Of course, someone will capture that profit.
Yeah, of course, it's not the public, so the other side will the private side,
Yeah, the private side.
investor.
Yeah, so can you name some of the factors in the private side? For example, like the homeowners, right? The homeowners, because like their prices of house increase, but it's only realized when they sell that or they rent that. And also we included the apartment as well. So investor who invest in building those apartments around these areas will also the one who benefit from this one. So it is important here that even yeah. So do you think that? So at first when I read about this, I didn't realize that. So we shouldn't build this one, right? Because the government will like make a loss. What do you think?
No, but like in the whole economy, like if different Asian in the economy, earn some income, right? The circular flow, they should have some kind of like multiplying effect in the long run, right?
Yes, but that's true. But we already calculated that the added value after opening the new subway is only like the government can only get back through that circles through taxes only.
Can you elaborate a little bit like how they actually being able to kind of like capture that right on the set?
Okay. So I think like we have the property tax. I'm not sure very much about this, but maybe for example, when you sell or buy something, you have to pay certain tax for this one. So that is what the government will get back. So it's not the whole added value, just a part of it.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if I understand correctly, but my point is like maybe at this moment the government will make a loss, but then if this project create an additional stream of income to different Asian within the economy, then over the long run, as they have extra income, right? So they can use it for like consumption or whatever, right? And that subsequently should be resulted in the added value in the tax for the government in the long run. So maybe they have to wait between the short run gain and the long run gain. So how they do it exactly, then I'm not sure. It's just something that I can see at the moment.
Okay, thank you very much for that. And it's actually what the government should do in order to like get back what they have invested. For example, like they need to have like different tax brackets for the one who have a lot of properties, for example, especially in this area. I know that some areas in the world they have a very specific tax for only that area. Because like a lot of really wealthy people who earn a property in this place, for example. So that is the way that the government can have more, like a imposing heavier tax. And another way is that maybe they need to join with other companies, other private companies in order to finance this one or to lower the construction costs. So what I remember, what I think is important about it is that maybe this thing is not, it's hard for the governments to get back what they invest. It is also important because they have created a lot of social welfare, a lot of benefits for private sectors. And yeah, they can have different solutions on how to reduce their loss. Okay, so that is the end of our presentation. So thank you very much for your listening.
Okay, so maybe before we open the room for any questions, just a quick question. So if possible, do you think could you, let's say, draw some graph about the difference in your case to help us maybe just visualize like the setup of this one because I noticed that you mentioned that the choice of treated group, right, is quite I would say there's not a conventional definition. Could you elaborate more on that
Can you
side?
ask the last sentence
Yes.
again?
So maybe you go back to the table where you report. Yeah, I think this one. Yeah, this one. Yes. So what is let's say how do the authors define the boss variable and the on second avenue? Could you tell us a bit more about it?
I forgot about it, so can I open the
Yeah,
paper?
yeah, sure.
Okay. Yeah, so the second avenue is kind of easy here because like that is the street avenue, just a name for a street. So the properties lie on that line. That is where the subway is installed. So yeah, is it clear with the second avenue? The properties on.
Properties on the second. So this is the how to say? This is the name, right? Second.
Yeah. This is the name of the
corridor.
street. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is one of their definition for second avenue, and do they use, let's say, others definition?
Yeah, they have different treatments. So yeah, they have different. Yeah, so this is one like treatment one. So the baseline is that second avenue corridor within 0.3 miles. Yeah, so these are different treatment.
Yes. Okay. This is the match, right?
Yeah, but I don't understand the map, so I exclude.
So what's the difference between the three panels? Let's say we are trying to understand it together. If you don't understand it now, maybe if other students, your classmates, if you have some hint, maybe we'll just discuss, let's say, or see what's the idea behind the destination of this treatment. Do you have any idea?
So I think it's quite clear. The first one is that the property is from two sides of the road, because this is where the subway is built. And this one is like in the circle of 0.3 miles. So I think it's like kind of close, around 1 kilometer, I guess. And this one is changing the distance to the nearest station, so it's also included all of the places that now it's easier for them. It is more convenient for them, faster, so that they can get to the nearest stations. So, and this one is like all of the things combined, like all of 3 pictures. If you are on Second Avenue within 0.3 miles, and now you are easier, faster to get to the nearest station, so you are in Hamilton.
Okay. I look and let's say, could you tell us a bit more about the control group in this one?
Let me check.
Yes. No worries if you're not sure, just
Yeah.
open it and then we will have a look on how they are constructing the groups.
I remember the control for the building, the area, something like that. Yeah.
So those are confounding factors they are trying to control, right? Yeah. So
I don't know what
here,
is-
here controls here mean they are controlling for different, let's say, characteristics.
Yeah.
It's not the control group.
Okay. Yeah, it's weird to. controls indicate different control in each specification.
Okay, so let's say here, if we use difference in difference, remember yesterday,
Yeah.
we usually have two groups, right? One treatment group and one control group. And my question is, what is the definition or how did the authors choose the control group in this case? Maybe you can check something with the upper east side, UES, over there. Yeah.
Yeah, building and housing group. Yeah, that is the X here. So yeah, we have noted that we cannot find the paper that so the control area is grass on upper east side. So treatment area is only on that map, the blue one on that map, and anything else in the upper east side will be the control group.
Yes, okay, very good. So and the reason I will not give you immediate results or let's say answer, so that you we together find and probably later you remember it much better. Okay, good. So we have the entire area, right? And only the blue one is the treated. Or depending on our definition, then we are trying to pick the treated group among the entire area. And my question for you is, what do you think? So let's say with the new construction, or is the remaining area, or let's say is the control group also affected by the treatment? What do you think?
Can you define affected by treatment?
So you said that the blue one, right,
Yeah.
is identified, let's say as the treated group, right?
Yes.
Yes, so because it's the second avenue corridor, right? And what we want in D&D or other we in a larger setting, we had randomized control, right? The randomized experiments in which, let's say by assumption, the treated groups, they are selected by random, right? So it's not the case that only a few, let's say, units are special and let's say they are allowed to take a treatment. And in this case, let's say we use the blue area as the treated group and the rest of the upper east side, UES, is the control, right? And my question for you is, do you think this one is problematic? Because my projection is the area, right, besides the blue one is also affected, or let's say in other words, it's also benefited on, let's say from the treatment. Just think about that. No pressure to give the correct answer, right?
Yeah.
We're just brainstorming. We're thinking about the setting the setting the authors are designing.
And so I think if I understand your concern correctly, so I think course, all of the areas. Like, I think we can say that even the neighboring of Upper East Side can also benefit from this one. So like, I mean like not just the rest of East Side, but I think like we can also argue that the whole country, like anything can benefit from that because people travel a lot and maybe this is only a part of the traveling. But I mean like, so I think it's important, like the difference between treatment and control is kind of large because like this is like direct effect. Like maybe like the neighboring areas can have some kind of like spillover, something, effect, something like that. Is that what you mean? I think like the difference is, so that's the reason why we want to test whether the difference is significant or not.
Okay. Okay. Just leave it there. Later, I will come and I will explain to you. Then let's say, what about the most variable? I think this one is quite let's say interesting because it could reflect the dynamics of the market. So how do the authors identify the most variable?
Sorry, is it related to like they divide into three phases where the construction of the new
Yes. Because usually we have only one point in time, right?
Yes.
Where we assume that the let's say the treatment takes place or the policy takes place. But in this case, they identify it as the
So the treatment period is the post period, right? Is it from 2013, 2019?
yes. So 2013 is the anticipation, right?
Yes.
Okay. And is this 19 or 17? 17 is the opening. Correct?
Yes, the 17 is the opening.
Yes, okay. So we have like 2013 and then 17. Anticipation, from anticipation to actual opening. And it's a window, right? It's not just one time implementation. And do you think that is quite let's say reasonable to use this one? Just tell me your line of thoughts, and then we will talk about it later. In short, previously when we identify most and let's see.
Oh, okay. I got what you mean. Okay. Oh, this is just like I need to check with it because
Yes.
I'm overconfident with this, so I just skip that. Okay. So I think like about the price of the property areas. So when they announce, even when they, we also see that in Vietnam, like when they announce that there is a metro line on that line. So right now, like the price already go up already. So I think that is like some kind of forward looking, like, because they know that 100% that subway line will be there. So like
Yes.
we can have that kind of window for that one. Yeah.
Okay. Yes, so there's, let's say there's some anticipation, right?
Yeah.
And actually it's already reflected in the price,
Yeah.
right? And if that is the case, do you think it's still causal in a sense because people anticipate and they change their behavior right before the treatment takes place, actually, right?
So I think that is still causal because like because they believe that it will happen. Of course, like the government say it will happen, so I think 99% it will happen. So I think that's still causal, I guess.
Okay.
Because they know it will happen and they start to adjust their behavior to match with the future reality.
Okay. Good. And let's say if you were the authors, would you do it better? Like, how would you convince us that this let's say selection of, or let's say the new establishment or the new opening of the Q train, right?
Yeah.
is actually reflected on, I don't know, maybe captured by the results, 8% something here. Would it be another drivers or something like that?
So you mean the prices also increase without it, right?
Yes.
Okay. So this, I think actually they address this problem already in the control things, like, but I don't know how to say that, but in the control groups, they
Yes.
also, like, the one that you draw, it's, of course, the price of the property is also increased for some reasons, because like it is a densely populated area, so of course, like, for example, like many people will want to come here, so it's like the demand will push the price up already. So that is for the control, they control it already, like yeah, so it's that clear.
Maybe the common choice like macroeconomic, something like that. Like, if they have the kind of global crisis, for example, like with like COVID-19, so yeah, but this maybe affect the price. Yeah.
Yes. So it's like it's not. It does not, let's say, purely like reflect the effect of two trends, but also another policy effect stepping in. Yes. And if, let's say, if I follow Lynn's argument, how would you convince me, or what are other tests you would do to prove to me that, hey, this is actually the real effect, like the number that you show.
What Bridgerton said, I think like if the policy, it affect all of the problems.
Okay.
So it's just not the treatment nor the control.
Yes. Okay, here. So because I must say that this paper is quite, it does not follow conventional definition. So maybe we try to think about that in a much closer look, and then we won't get confused later, right? So let's say we have this area, right? And so maybe this blue line, right? Doesn't have to be that straightforward, something like that, right? So this is our treatment group, all right? Okay, and so the remaining only in this area, we say is control. That's what they define, right? What is the name of the area for us? Yes. East. Yeah, yes. Okay. So here and here. No, actually it's the entire one, but this one is the control, right? The rest of it. Yes. And let us go back to the definition, or let's say how we design the difference. Later I will, I think in the lectures, I will try to reformulate so that we understand. But now this is a good chance for us to really see what is going on. And of course, this one is just our critical thinking session, right? We are trying to brainstorm together. So no pressure at all. Let's say, so this is, I would discuss first the conventional one, right, of DD. So this is our policy, right, or in this case, policy, or we have like treatment, right? So previously, or let's say as a normal approach, we assume that this one is exogenous, right? So it's not really related. So this one, exogenous, right? And our and the treatment, right? They receive the treatment group, every unit of them. Okay. They receive the treatment just by random. This is the randomized control setting we are trying to use because that will help us isolate effect. But I will just draw here for example. This is the control, right? And this is the treatment, right? Okay. So, what else? This is our here. Right. Continues after the policy. And this is what we observe, right? Okay. Right, so this is the parallel track. Assumption, right? Assumption. In the absence of the treatment, the treated group will, it's not quite parallel, right? But yeah, maybe here. It's kind of red. Yeah. So this is, we call it the perfect setting for DD, right? And this is just usually just one time. But in this case, it's different because we have the period of 30, right? Yes. So this one is anticipation, right? And this is the actual opening. The thing with treatment and control, we impose some assumptions on the two groups. So the two groups, first, they remain in the same group of treatment and control, right? They do not change as a result of this policy. My question is, what if someone, I think this is not quite direct, but let's say, in the presence of this policy, right? What if someone from the treatment group, they decide to go to the control group and the other way around? Then we are facing a big trouble, right? Or let's say, give me 1 second. So, maybe here I will push this way a bit too much to the randomized to experiment, right? So the best thing that we could do to conduct or to find the effect of something is that here we have one sample, and right at the time of the policy, we say that only this one get treated. Just by random, we draw a lottery, right? And the remaining become the control, right? Because they do, so those will receive the treatment, right? So those are the status assigned to them. Or let's say if I got assigned to the treatment. So here, no treatment, right? And this one, the best case one could do is to assign the status for them by random, right? This is randomized. And what we could do is to find the difference between the two groups, right? Before and after, correct? But what if right at the time I know that I got the treatment, and you know that you do not get the treatment? We talk to each other, and I say, hey, let's swap. Those are the ones assigned to us, but in reality, we do not follow the rules. Let's say we want to swap. So that means later I avoid the treatment, right?
After swap.
Why do you say that? How can you say that we deny? One more time.
So maybe some policymaker came to me and tell me, hey, you will receive the treatment. But in fact, I decided to swap it with you. So in the end, you get it, I don't. And let's say the one who assigned to me doesn't know I'm actually the one who get it or not eventually. And another party just come later and measure the effect. And they just know that like, the numbers of assigned and the number of unassigned people are the same. But the real people who are taking that are different. So that means our behavior has changed as the result of the treatment. Right? In this case, we do not follow what he assigned to us. So I change it. Am I convincing you?
No, I just waiting for the question.
Okay.
What do you want to ask here?
So the point I want to highlight is wherever we see like the difference or the randomized control, the randomized setting, we want to keep in mind that we want to make sure that the groups, how they identify the groups are perfectly or are properly controlled. Because if in between of this, let's say, of the process, some people do not comply with the treatment status assignment, then the result might be distorted. That's one thing. So, for example, here the control here, after the policy, he or she has to be still in the control group, not the other way around. Right. So maybe this is not the case here. Right. Okay. So I don't know. So maybe if they do use the number, like the data from user, right? Is it true?
Yeah, the data for the user is from the first impressions of for the community time. So if it's about the property, so I think it's the property can watch with itself. So like it can watch with another one. It stayed there. So and the people, it's not the people living in the area, just people travel along that line.
Okay. Can you still see that then, or you want to switch a bit so that your friends could still see the board? Okay. Good. But let's say regarding the commuting time, right? Could you tell me a bit more like how are they measuring that?
With the community time,
Yes.
I think we just take a second.
So they use GPS, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Content, location, yeah, so they have data.
And this is from user, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So from the one who lives in the area, correct?
I just put so one
So smartphone user, yes.
not user in the area, user that travel along this travel like in this UA. A lot of user, not user in the area alone, because if you stay here, you can travel to another places.
I Yes.
But it doesn't matter whether you travel outside
Okay.
this zone. Yeah.
Okay. And what is their idea or their motivation when they test this one? So they will show that commuting time reduces, right?
Yeah.
But by looking at let's GDS data for all the people or all the commuters going through this area, not maybe the one who's been living in this area and they travel faster thanks to this Q train or something like that. Yeah, so that's why like, whenever you read the data, like the way they describe it is really crucial because it could impose like or it could tell us whether their setting makes sense or not, and if it's not the case, then what could be done better, for example. Yes.
I think maybe we know that they choose data from people who have homes in this home. So maybe they travel from elsewhere to their home or from their home to their work. Something that they mentioned over here.
Right.
Like
So,
time like just home to work, I guess.
so those are the ones who are living in this US area.
Yeah.
And do they fix or let's say, do they have to have household address and work address in this area too? Or that could be different? So for example, I could live in this area, right? And I work inside the blue one, or the other way around.
Also, I think like they just describe the way that they decided. Just the home. I don't know about the work. Possible work locations. Yeah, just home in this area. And work location can be anywhere.
Okay, yes. That's already give us some room like to see, right?
Yeah.
So let's say, assuming that people are living in this area, are the one that we are talking about, and do you think that if with the opening of this Q trend, is there someone, for example, they intentionally select themselves or they try to move closer or switch their home because actually in the US, let's say the market operates quite differently than what we have in Vietnam. People, the majority of them tend to rent the apartment. They just rent, they do not want to buy an apartment, right? And actually sometimes if you compare, let's say cost and benefit analysis, probably the area inside or closer to the Q trend is much higher, but it could save me 1 hour of commuting time every day. Then that flip the story entirely, right? That means now people change their behavior as a consequence of the new policy, or in other words, knowing that there is gonna be a new Q trend, and I am the one. Of course, if I drive, I use my own motorbike or I use my own car, it doesn't change my behavior, right? Because I just drive. It doesn't make that much of an effect. But if I am the one who do not own, or I am, let's say, an environmental activist, I want to use the public transportation, and knowing that there's going to be a new trend in the area. So there might be some group that are trying to relocate, right, to move closer to this area, right?
Yeah.
And so if that is the case, we are not sure about whether the two groups are fixed or constant over time, and people are changing or switching between groups, then there will be a big issue for us to measure.
Okay.
almost 30% increase in the rent price, but it could save me time in terms of like commuting. Why is this the case? Let's say previously I'm still living in the area, and if I want to go to work, probably I need to take in total 3 buses, right? So maybe I have to first take the first bus here and keep just walking to my workplace. But now, yeah, thanks to the new Q train, there is some stop in between my work, my workplace, and let's say this is the stop, the closest stop to my apartment, right? And if I just like I move closer to here, if the rent price increases, but I save lots of time. Instead of using the 3 buses, I will just take this train, right? So that's one potential. The way, of course, like here is it's really hard to say right or wrong and whether the behavior is representative or not. But still, what I'm trying to show you or to discuss with you here, in the sense that whenever we look at some setting, we are trying to understand how they select the sample and whether the behaviors of the groups in their sample make sense, or have they conducted extra tests to prove that the effect here is actually the true effect of the Q train, not by the others, right? So that's one, and I will just use this example here to visualize something. This they talk about the placebo effect. Here,
So do you want to mention another thing? So, okay, and I have just one more point about this one. Have you finished about this one?
Yeah, so go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think it's kind of different in the way that they also change from control group to treatment, like you said. But this is kind of different because, like, because this is pain data. So when you are still living here, you are the control, and this is at a different time dimensions. Before you here, before the subway, you here after the subway. But when you move here, you will be you will be the treatment in the other time frame already. So it's like it's different in that way. So but this one, if you just like want result and you don't care about the time, so I think that will like mess up your result because you assume wrongly. But this is kind of different because like you can change the role. Like it doesn't matter whether the role, because like you will compare with the one who living, or it's like different ways to compare.
Okay, but like did it mention something about like they are making sure that those who stay in the trip or in the blue zone and the remaining one, do they stay exactly the same before and after?
Let me check.
Okay.
You didn't mention anything about that.
Yes. Yeah. I just, let's say, want to highlight some potentials, right?
Yeah.
Some scenarios that might make our, let's say, results inconsistent or violates the assumption we have when we run the test. Yeah, that's it. And that's a good point that you mentioned. And also here previously, I think I asked you a few questions. I don't remember exactly the order, but yeah, we have to be very careful about this window when they try to use a period for the treatment, because we do not know what is happening here. Or think of it this way, maybe we call it the treatment exposure. Let's say if the opening time is 2017, right? Yeah. One could argue that the effect at different years might be different, because if we assume both here, you use this period as the both one, then you are trying to average out, right? So you assume that every year in this window have the same effect. But one could, let's say, challenge or attack your argument by saying that, no, I do think that, for example, in 17, this effect is the strongest, because we know for sure that right in this year it will open. It's in the case of metro, right? So right before that we know, like, okay, I think for 10 years, right? We were hoping that the very first metro between Vietnam and Suiting, right, will be in effect, but they do not know. Lots of like I think projects, real estate projects, have been conducted right along the sides, but exactly right before, or like right on the day that the official announcement right got released, then we see a surge in house price. I heard that back then almost I think on average the house price increases by I think 200 or 300 million, right, for a project along the line. But of course, like those closer to Vietnam will experience a higher surge, but those further then they will see a small increase. But all in all, they see, let's say, an increase in house price very close to this one, right? And between these years, so probably there's buy and sell, and the price is, let's say, growing, but probably this does not really capture the effect of the metro. It's the expectation, right? And so that's why I said if we use one window to cover that, probably we are ignoring something, or we are just trying to average out the effect. We do not look at one specific effect of this year, but basically we just say that, yeah, in this window, maybe every year the average increase is this number, something like that. So we have to be careful on how we interpret the results, right? And I think I recall I have another question. Back then, I had a question like from the beginning, that how are you gonna convince me that this setting on the 8% increase really capture the effect of this one, right? I say no, I don't believe it, let's say. And do you think that there's something you could do to convince me? So when you show me that, okay, you show me the table, you say, okay, like with the new Q trade, we expected 8% increase. But I tell you no, it's not. I do not believe that this is probably the effect of Q trade, but indeed it's the effect of another policy, let's say. How are you gonna convince me? You have something in mind?
I mean, like, if you have another policy, it's already captured in the difference of this one. Because like you will have this train, they will receive the other policy. You mean like there is another policy for this area only? Is that what you mean?
What I mean is the effect that you see, that you show me,
Yeah.
captured another event, not the Q trend. I'm just acting as a reviewer, and now how are you going to convince me?
Another event. Can you-
Yes, and this is the question for the entire class, right? Maybe I will just use this one too. And there's something we could do with this one. But scare you a lot with like lots of questions, information, but all in all, we are trying to understand the concept deeply, right? So no worries. So let's say here. So this is the UES, the east, right? And this is the west. So this is west, and this is east, right? So, if the effect, let's say, is valid for this Q train in the east area, right? And I use the same shock of this one for another area. In theory, I should not see any effect in another area, right? So we call it like the placebo. I argue that if once you show me your regression table and you say that okay, this is the effect of the Q trend, we are agree on that side, we're on the same page, right? At this stage, yeah. And I say no, I do not believe that. So probably the effect we see here applies in all the trains newly built in the US.
Okay. So you imagine that there is another the train line in US or another
Yes, so probably I could say that, right?
Yeah.
What you capture here, the effect of 8%,
Yeah.
is not, or it is a mix of the establishment of this one and also something going on in another area, something for example, right? And if you prove to me, you want to prove to me that actually what we see, the increase we see is from this trend, then in theory, I should not see the same effect in another area. Right?
You might or you might not, because like East UES is not that representative, and even if it's representative for the whole US, it might not be the case for the West. The West side. I mean, it's hard to say that you won't see that. You might see that or you might not. It's,
Yeah.
they have different controls and characteristics, right?
Yes. Okay. So all in all, because we already narrowed down the area to this one, right? This UES, how to say, area. Oh, and one more thing, maybe it will help explain a bit more if we know about the construction. So this line, this Q train, is only within UES or it extended to another area too? Because if they link to another area, it's better that I could help you visualize this stuff. It's really focusing on Lexington, right? So they have the spillover effect.
They say that the different framework is appropriate in our context because led to only minor effects on the entire system beyond that accrued to the treatment area. They say that.
Okay. Yeah. So so for example here, I think on page number 5, right? They say that they check for the spillover effect, right? they use the Madison Avenue as the control group. Oh, okay. No, I think this one is spillover, so it's a different story. So here, let's say,
I checked for the figure 6, they also include the dynamic treatment effect. Here,
yes. Oh, which one?
figure 6.
Give me 1 second.
So I think maybe this can control for the effect in time.
Yes. Yeah, that's what I want to highlight to you, that maybe each year has different effect, and we use the dynamic one to show the exposure to treatment, right?
Second 5, figure 2nd 5.
So we have pre-period, right? Construction period, and then post period. Yeah. And so here, what do they show? So this one captures like what I showed you before, that when we let's say the treat coefficient, we use the treat or the both as one of the years, right? And then we see that we have like a heterogeneity in effects, right? It's different. So on average, maybe this is a horizontal line like this, right? But spread among the year, we see something up, something down like this. So that's one. And here, let's back to this one, and I will confuse you. What I want to say is, if we think about the effect the paper presented is correct, then we should see that, for example, this one, they use the UES area, right? And for example, if there is another trend in UWS, so the west area, and we should not see an increase, because if that is a decrease in another area, something like that, right? Maybe this is another trend, we call it dead trend, right? And if we see the effect, the same design, the same setting, we assume a flexible time for another area, right? So for example, something, what we could do is like this. In this west area, there is, let's say, no trend. Let's say, for example, right? And there is another line. We select the treatment group by, let's say, by assumption. We know that it's some own line. This is already constructed in advance, right? Let's say that it's been running, right? So we have identify the area, or like we call it a black zone, right? That is similar to the blue zone. And the remaining one is the control. As we design for the its area. Are you okay so far?
Yeah, I got it.
Yes, okay. So here we have treatment and control, right? Right, and this one is the control. The only difference here is that we have one, let's say, formerly built line. This is not new like this, but we try to compare.
Okay.
Yes. And we assume further that during the time period of, let's say, between 13 and 19, right, the both, for this area, If I do not see an increase at all, so the effect is insignificant, then that's okay, right?
Using the same time frame.
Yes, we apply the same setting, so it's not a placebo effect that we assume the same setting here, but for different area. Yeah. And if I do not see any increase at all, or the difference between treatment and control, pre and post, are insignificant, then that's okay, right? Because we know that so probably this one, there is, or in other words, there is no general systematic and structural movement that affect both area, leading to an increase to both area. And here the effect applies only for this one. But if I also see an effect here, maybe 4%. Yeah, so in basic terms, it's like that, right? Because this area, there is some general or systematic forces affecting both groups that makes two groups increases by 4%. And here we experience 8. So the actual effect, the real effect of this new Q trend is 8 minus 4, that is 4. And we are overestimating the effect here. If we do not control for, or we do not have some growth, right? Because usually readers or reviewers, they are very critical. They are critical in terms of setting, and they always what they want to see is whether you are proving to them that your results are properly capturing the true effect of the event you are trying to show. Yes. And so all in all, when we read the papers, what I want to, let's say, encourage you here is to think about some potentials, right? Scenarios that might affect the results that they are trying to see.
Just to say, this is the first time I see the placebo test here, but I think it's because it's like a different region, so we cannot interpret anything. So it's even like if it's 2% or 4%, we can interpret it in a different way, but not in the way because like we've already different. I think like it's just this is like the difference between this one and this one, but this is the difference between this one and this one. But the two controls are not the same. This control 1, this control 2. So it's to like cannot be a big concern to this one. Like no matter what this is, even if it's lower than 8% is fine to me. But if it's, I think like it's just like this is like the difference between A, B, this C, D. They are not the same. Yeah. So how can we like it's not like the real will not be like this because it's not the same something. They don't have the same baseline. So we cannot say much. I understand that you want to test, but if this is the case, I think it cannot be the one that who can like make the author think again.
No, it's like if they, I want to say is if the author try to show us that, so here the effect we see, but for example, for another test they show, right? They see no effect for in other area. We see that there's no spillover. And in this case, now it's not like we are comparing like this, but back to the question, why do we have difference? In difference from the beginning, what do we use? You are actually using this as an event. Right. Yes, so you use this one as an event, the, how to say, in this case, the opening, right, of or the establishment of Q-trend as some shock to the two groups, right? And if this shock affects like the two groups here, we are okay with that, right? But if the shock also, let's say, and should we expect that the shock happening here in the east affect another area? Back to the question, to show you, I'm trying to say that we're not trying to compare these ratios, but here we use this shock explicitly to test for this area. right? And if we also see an effect in another area, then probably the number you captured are not from this shop only. There might be something else. You get it?
I don't, but I think I was thinking about it. Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't think about it.
Okay, so in other words, let's say you are using or you are evaluating the effect of the Q trend, right? And you try your best to find this area. So for now I buy it. Yeah. But if, and of course for this new policy, we assume that the best case would be it affects the two groups that you identify. Mhm. That also means that with the new treatment, or let's say with the new Q trend, we should not see any effect in another area that is not operating right.
Yeah, but I just asked like, what if it's like it's a spillover effect of this trend, but it doesn't invalidate the statement that it has increased 8% higher than the other areas, the rest of UBS. I mean, like, what if they have speed effect? What if they have significant? What if can you explain that? What if they have significant impact? So what will it be like? So it is invalid? Okay.
No, it's not that it's invalid, but yes, we have to be cautious in claiming the effect. Why is this? Because now, or I could tell you, let's say, right in this area, we don't need to move here. Right now, we do not, let's say, use example, you focus on this one only. So we know that the new Q trend, in theory, should affect only the treatment, not the control. Right?
Yes.
So it affects only the treatment, not the control. But what if it affects also the control? With the new Q trend, and the entire area benefits, right? Let's say. Then you see some bias in your estimation, right? Maybe I will talk about that later in the lecture to show you.
Yeah, maybe they might be biased, but I think it's different when you say about the definition. It's like receive treatment or not, but it is not like, but it is area, like it's, like it is geographically, not information treatment. It's not the same, like when you receive a pill. It is different. It is hard to argue it in that two way because like we will misinterpret the meaning. Of course, you will be different because you living. But when we say if whether you living, like the location is different.
Yes,
It's not the one that you change or. Like,
Yes. And the reason why I mentioned this one is, let's say, to give you one, let's say, potential point where you could think that. So what if some people here, they previously living in the outskirts, but with in the absence of the Q trend, they change their behavior. They want to move inside, something like that. Then it's like those are the points or the errors that attack or challenge your assumption in the model. Yes, some room or some of course that here probably within those years before and after, we do not know, and we would assume that we don't care if someone stays there forever. We just know that the house price, something like that, right? Or in this case, the GBS, it just measures those who are affected at some certain point in time. Yeah, and so here, for the questions that I imposed before, what we talk about here is whether your data correctly captures the effect. So if we have this event, right, this policy, and the assumption here, one very strict assumption is that the control group should not be affected by the policy. Only the treatment group got affected. But if the control in this case also benefits from the Q trend, right? Then your beta coefficients, the beta of the difference in difference, right? The estimate we see might be already biased. Yeah. Okay, and but upward or downwards depending on the direction. And there's some way that we could maybe try to prove that in the regression. Okay, that's very good. I know that this paper is quite, I don't say that it's messy, but the way they set up, the way they identify, or they design their test, first of all, it's quite comprehensive, but still we have to think about that critically, right? To see whether what they're selling is, let's say, justified, right? To some extent. Right. Okay. So that is the first paper today. I don't know if someone want to, or you want to present the second paper too. We still have 1 hour left. Yeah. Yeah.
A little rest for
Yeah,
our
sure.
last
Yes. Maybe we have, let's say, 10 minutes